All right, guys, so for principle number 2, which is honoring your hunger, I'm hopping back in using my trusted intuitive eating workbook from the intuitive eating experts, Evelyn Tribal and Elise Rush. I'm probably killing her name. The last activity, so there's been a heart rate activity and a self-assessment. I've already posted those, so go back and watch them if you haven't. They're important steps on learning how to honor your hunger. So honoring your hunger, what the heck does that mean? It means getting curious and learning in your body how you feel hunger and how hunger shows up. So the last activity that is kind of like a bonus to my podcast episode is getting to know your hunger. So if you have the workbook, it's on page 49. But I'm going to walk you through it. So if you don't have the workbook, get your ears on and I'll walk you through the process. So basically, to get in touch with your hunger, you're going to want to have a lot of checkpoints during the day to say, how am I feeling? Like, how am I hungry? Like, what am I feeling right now? So they've got, a hunger and fullness rating. So sometimes we'll see it called hunger and fullness scale. Depends where you look. It's kind of a well-used tool across the registered dietitian field. I've seen it lots, put in a few different times. But what the focus is you've got a rating system, and a lot of researchers use rating systems. So if you've gone to the hospital, they might ask you to rate your pain on a scale 1 to 10. So it's kind of the same thing. So description of hunger and fullness sensations. So then you've got your rating. So if it's 0 to 10, you've got the description of hunger and fullness sensations. And then you've got the overall quality of sensations. So they want to know when you check in, if you're a 0, which means you're painfully hungry, this is primal hunger, like it's really intense and urgent, you just have to eat something right then. That's your rating, 0. You've got that primal hunger. And overall, what's the quality? Is it pleasant, unpleasant to you, or is it neutral? Okay, and there's no right or wrong answer, but usually when people are at that 0, it's going to feel unpleasant because you've got to eat, like you're just beyond hungry. The next one on the over hungry category would be number 1, and that's ravenous and irritable, and you're anxious to eat. Okay, so then you're going to think, okay, I'm number 1, I'm starting to get irritated, I'm ravenous, I want to eat. And then again, you're going to think about the overall quality of sensation, and probably, are you going to feel pleasant? Probably not. Neutral? Probably not. It's probably an unpleasant feeling. Okay? And then you keep going down. So number 2 would be still in the overhungry category. So 0, 1, and 2 are in that category. Number 2 is very hungry. So you're looking forward to a hearty meal or a snack. And then when we think about that quality of sensation, you're really hungry, you're looking forward to eating, but it's a pleasant feeling because you're not to that over hungry point. Okay, so you're technically over hungry, but you're not in the unpleasant, or you're not neutral, you're just having a pleasant feeling. And then the next category from 3 until 7 is the normal eating range. Okay, so listen to these. So number 3 is you're hungry, you're ready to eat, but without urgency. It's a polite hunger. So again, when we look at the overall quality of sensation, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? You're hungry and you're ready to eat, but without urgency. It's polite hunger. That would probably be a pleasant sensation. Okay, and then you get to number 4, which would be subtly hungry, slightly empty, like you're not really feeling hungry, kind of feel hungry, and that they've given a neutral sensation. Number 5, you're neutral. You're not hungry and you're not full, and that sensation is neutral too. Okay, and then number 6, remember we're in the normal eating range. Number 6 is you're beginning to feel emerging fullness. Okay, so you still feel neutral. You haven't eaten too much, but you're starting to think like, okay, I'm getting full. Number 7, we're still in that normal eating range. Number 7 is comfortable fullness. You feel satisfied and content. Okay, so you're comfortable, you're satisfied, so that overall quality of sensation is going to be pleasant. Okay, so that was the normal eating range from 3 until 7. Then the next range is overfull, and that's going to go from 8 till 10. So 8 is a little too full. This doesn't feel pleasant, but it's not quite emerged into an unpleasant experience. So you feel overfull. Maybe you don't have to unbutton your pants. So your quality of sensation is neutral, but you know that you ate a bit much. Number 9 in the overfull category is very full, too full. You feel uncomfortable, as if you need to unbutton your pants or remove your belt. That quality of sensation is going to be unpleasant, right? Because you've eaten too much and you do not feel good. And then the last one in that overfull category is 10. That's when you're painfully full, you're stuffed, you might feel nauseated. And again, that's in that unpleasant category. I think we've all been there at some point. I think my one child is sometimes getting there quite frequently. We have to work on hunger and fullness. Okay, so what you want to do is think about those categories. So I'm going to do a quick review again. So over hungry was 0 to 2. The normal eating range was 3 to 7. And most of those are going to be like a neutral sensation. And then overfull was 8 to 10. And most of those are going to be unpleasant, right? Because you're overfull. So you want to review that and answer the questions to your best of your ability. And if you don't know, that's okay. So just listen to these 2 questions. At which rating do you feel usually the sensations of hunger? Okay, so are you not getting hungry until you're at a 0? When you're like painfully hungry, you've got primal hunger, you've got to eat something? Or do you like get to a point where you're very hungry and you're looking forward to eating? Or do you get to that like kind of polite hunger? Like, I could eat, but I'm not in a big hurry. That would be a number 3. So think about where you are when you get hungry. What number are you at? And then by the time that you honor your hunger, does your hunger experience tend to be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? Okay, so maybe you've checked in at a 2, you let yourself get a little bit over hungry, and then you've eaten. And then where are you stopping on that scale, right? Are you stopping in the overfull category because you waited too long to eat? Or are you stopping like in the 6, beginning to feel emerging fullness, or 7, comfortable fullness? So it's just, again, that reflection of when am I starting to eat? And then when am I stopping to eat? And just even the slowing down and this self-awareness around what's happening and how we're feeling, this is the magic. Okay, it's different than a lot of us live and eat. We're not paying attention to our body. There's actually some really neat studies that show like how you think when you're eating affects the nutrient absorption and stuff. And I'm going to get into that later, but super cool. So then what you can take is you can take those categories of over hungry, normal hunger to over full, and you can do something called a hunger discovery journal. So in that journal, you're going to take a piece of paper. If you have the workbook, they have a journal on page 51, so you can use that. But what it does is you're going to look at time of day, because we know time, as much as we don't want to have like a regimented time when we're doing intuitive eating, we want to be able to see and figure out, I talked about this in the podcast episode this week, we want to figure out what your eating window needs to be for you to feel your best. Okay, that's the whole point of intuitive eating, is getting to a place where you feel nourished with your food, satisfied with your food, and you're eating in response to your hunger cues, right? So you want to record time. You want to think about that hunger rating. So when you sit down to eat, are you a 0 Or are you a 2? Are you a 3? Like, where are you? And when you finish, what do you finish at? And then they want to know the quality of hunger. So are you feeling pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? What did you eat? And then any comments. So comments might be, like if you were with a certain person or you ate out, like things that might affect what you're going to put down as your score, or things you might want to remember about where you were when you ate. So then you're looking back and you're going to notice if there's any trends on that hunger rating. And you'll start to notice if you're checking and they're suggesting to do it over like a week, you'll start to notice when you start to eat. And if you start to eat at a 2, you might not feel pleasant. If you start to eat at a 3, you probably feel pretty neutral. So what you'll start to see is the connection between what kind of hunger you should start eating at and how that feels better in your body. But it feels better for everyone, right? So it's such an individualized thing. And then also what pattern works best for you. So that's why I said it's important to document that time that you've eaten. To see, maybe you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Maybe the guy beside you needs to eat every 4 to 6 hours. It depends on the body, right? And then the last question they ask is, if you ate lighter or smaller meals or snacks, how did that affect the frequency of your hunger? For example, does your hunger emerge sooner for the next meal or snack? Or does it feel like you're always eating? So again, and some of that goes back to balancing what we choose to eat is going to be affecting how hungry we get, how soon after, right? So I'm not going into that in the podcast. I'll hop on and do a quick training on meal balancing if we don't know how to balance our meals, as a touch point on where we can start with meal balancing. And then I'll come back into this series and do a few more trainings for you, because nourishment is self-care. So getting ready to have food ready, getting ready to be ready, as Abraham Hicks talks about. Basically, like meal planning a bit in advance, or having things that you can grab at. And I talked about that in the podcast and said, like, go and grab my grab and go free resource, grab and go lunch guide, because it gives you quick and easy lunches to get ready and even to grab in the moment, which will give you energy that stays with you longer. Okay, so I'll come back and do a mini training on that as well, because they're talking about self-care as nourishment as self-care, 911, like have things ready so you don't get to the over-hungry point. And if you have, then you have things ready to cover that. All right, guys, stay tuned for the next episode.